Welcome to Security Watch. This is Zain. Today our topic revolves around Turkey's role in the region and also Turkey's relationship with the United States and also Pakistan and much more. Today our first guest and our special guest is Dr. Ahmet Uysal. He is the Director of Middle Eastern Studies Center in Ankara and also the Professor of Political Sociology in the University of Istanbul. Our second guest, as always, is Mr. Athar Javed, a senior geopolitical analyst and also DG Pakistan House, an Islamabad-based think tank. Welcome to our show, Dr. Ahmet. This is Zain Khan. It is a pleasure having you on Security Watch.
My pleasure, sir.
Welcome to our show, Mr. Athar Javed. It is a pleasure having you as always.
Thank you very much, Zain.
Mr. Ahmet, let's get to the first question, and a very important question. Regional security dynamics have changed in the wake of Syrian and now Libyan conflict. In your opinion, what's the role of Turkey in establishing regional and global peace?
Yes, Turkey is trying to stabilize the region that's on fire right now after the Arab Spring, and Arab people demanded democracies, and the old regimes, even some of their Western allies, didn't like that, and there is now big chaos in the region, in Syria, in Yemen, in Libya, in Iraq. Iraq, for example, has all resources, all assets to go forward, but unfortunately, it is torn apart with the internal struggle, plus the American and Iranian competition there. So we have an unstable region, and Turkey, as an industrial and trading country, they want stable region, stable neighborhood, inside and out. So anything that's a crisis hurts Turkey and damages Turkey, and anything that is stable and doing normal business helps Turkey. So this is the Turkey's vision. Also have historical ties with the region. Turkey needs market with an oil and gas, which is the energy needs, so also requires a stable region. So Turkey trying to stabilize in the Middle East, but as vis-a-vis Europe, Turkey also as a stabilizing force in the Eastern Mediterranean and also Eastern Europe with the Balkans. Turkey has connections with Eastern Europe, with Bulgaria, with Bosnia, with Albania. So, Europe has a serious interest in Turkey's role in the region. But unfortunately, the narrow calculations like France and Greece that wants to control the whole Eastern Mediterranean, which is impossible. They created the state of Cyprus, which excludes or which ignores the presence of Turkish Cypriots. And with Greece, they want to exclude Turkey from the whole Mediterranean. But in the international law, the main land that determines the exclusive economic zones, but they don't want to see that. There is like a tiny island just next to Antalya, and they say this is the whole Greek region, which is unacceptable, of course. And some countries are using them. Maybe Israel also is happy to share. Egypt is now weak because of the military coup. So they are trying to create a de facto situation. Amr al-Waqi, they say. So they say we have, decided the future of, and they didn't invite Turkey to the table to how to share it, and maybe Turkey wouldn't go there because they have a bad agenda or negative intentions. At the end, these things play out with the Libyan crisis, with the coup in Egypt, with the Palestinian issue, like Israel. They want to control more than their weight in the, unproportionally with their border in the Mediterranean. For example, they want to expand toward the Lebanon maritime or sea areas or maritime areas, and they ignore Palestinian rights, for example, Israel. So there is kind of a setup which is in the making, still not decided, but they are trying to push a certain agenda. And Turkey is opposing that, saying, you cannot decide for the Palestinians, you cannot ignore Turks, you cannot also impose like a decision with a coup plotter, which is a failure. Yani Haftar, Sisi, he failed in the coup, but and he succeeded in the coup, but he failed in politics, in the promises. Haftar is even failure in the beginning. So and Libyan people resisted Haftar, didn't accept his coup plot, and Turkey, intervened later on to support, and this changed the game. But we have to give the credit to the Libyan people that they refused the military coup, just like Turkish people refused the military coup attempt by the Gulenists. And so there is a lot of intermingling, a lot of mixing. And America has different agenda, Russia has different agenda. Sometimes Turkey works with Russia, for example, to prevent, the division of Syria, but also has to work with America, even in Syria, for a democratic transition. So the situation is very dynamic, and each country, not full alliance, but each file requires like fine touch, or detailed tuning of actions. So a very fluent, very dynamic situation in the neighborhood.
Mr. Athar Javed, what's your observation on Turkey's role in establishing peace?
Yeah, thank you, Zain. Actually, I think there are major issues with the few Western powers, I would say, including France and the previous colonial powers. The issue is that since the colonization has ended after the Second World War, and also because the Turkey and other major countries, Muslim countries, they've developed, like Pakistan, for example, out of those crises. The problem here is that they want to sustain the doctrinal changes they made prior to Second World War and First World War. They want to keep those doctrinal changes and manipulate it in terms of foreign and security policies. Look, one of the better understanding of how they are doing it is that the interventions they have made in Syria, and they supported the terrorist group, for example, against Turkey, and also trying to implement or impose a control chaos on Turkey through different methods. And also the crisis is about the way they will manipulate the territorial disintegration or creating a buffer zones between Turkey and the conflict zone, and then operate from there. This is a major security, I would say, element it is developed. And it's not really a rhetoric, because the facts on the ground tell us that whenever there is an effort from Turkey to stabilize or engage or dialogue, then we face problems actually. What sort of problems we face? The first problem Turkey faces, that they want Turkey to be quiet as the others are. So the problem is that the President Tayyip Erdogan, of course, is a quite different personality. He has this Turkish first and the Turkish people and the Islamic I would say, to borrow from the Islamic Renaissance. And that poses a problem. Like other leaders, if he decides today to submit to whatever the demands are, of course, it will go from to another direction. It will be going in a direction positively for Europeans. But I don't think so it will be positive for the Turkish people, because the proud civilization or cultural heritage, if you look into Iraqi conflict very carefully since March 2003, most of the museums, all those heritages have been destroyed during the war. And if you remember on our show, a very important American, former American general admitted to us that, and also the deposition after deposition in US Congress admitted that the Iraq war was a mistake we initiated on the wrong intelligence. And it goes on then other areas. Then why do you want to destabilize areas close to Turkey? What is the basic doctrine? So that's why the doctrine is to somehow, because the economic frustration, the majority increasing Muslim immigrants, which is very important in France, in Germany, in other parts of Europe, these things need to normally be negotiated in a positive way. There was a need to engage Turkey positively, but that didn't happen actually. Now, Turkey, as Dr. Ahmed pointed out, it has its own role to play, and I think all countries are. If Greece which economy is completely in tatters and dependent on most of the sort of aid and support from other countries, it is very difficult for Greece to sustain that kind of stances. Same goes for France. Look, we have seen in COVID-19 this that most of the major developed nations, developing, we are already on the back foot. But look at what has happened to those countries which has claimed that they have the best system in the world. They can match any pandemic, natural catastrophe, but they did not. So there is, and there has been a need to engage Turkey positively. I have one more point to say, also for Turkey, that Turkey also should strive to create a more unanimity between the Arab countries, because the biggest thing we see, the gap between communication gap and the gap of this follow their respective interests, because one way or the other there has been no voice on Kashmir. We saw President Tayyip Erdogan came out very strongly on Palestine, very strongly. It's not a matter of rhetoric. It's a matter of supporting the basic human rights issues. Only on this point, I think Turkey has a role to play in the regional stability.
Dr. Ahmed, under the leadership of President Erdogan, Turkey's international stature has improved. How do you see Turkish-U.S. relations evolving, especially in the wake of the Palestinian conflict?
Yes, let's go one by one with Turkey. I mean, of course, Turkey is fully with the Palestinian people, and we see Israel is the extension of this colonial Western intervention in the region, and also acting like a colonial power who doesn't listen to any international law and any respect for the local Arabs or neighborhood or the neighbors, and can attack Lebanon or others. They don't have problem with Jordan, and but they want to act unilaterally, Israel, I think. They want to do whatever they want, and they now have full support by Trump. Trump, in the beginning, he said, "I don't care if it is one solution or two solutions. It is like an Israeli solution they support." Yani, so tell them, "You do whatever you want, and we are behind it." And they also show that support directly with the Golan issue, with the embassy. I mean, America transferring the embassy and also the settlements and East Jerusalem, etc. So, but lately, maybe one exception, Trump did not accept the annexation of the West Bank. So, some kind of, we see a break on the gas a little bit on the car. So tell them to wait. Don't go too fast. I mean, they are already fast, but so this creates a problem with the American administration, that Turkey cannot accept these de facto or these Emr el-Waqi actions that and Turkey played a big role to mobilize the Muslim countries in the OIC to condemn the decision of this transferring, or trying to, or the plan to make Jerusalem as the Israeli capital, UN platform. So Turkey is pushing, the most, also creating kind of awareness with the Arabs, with Muslims, and so this creates a kind of dilemma with Trump. But Trump has other plans also. They want to focus on China, so they want to get out. Actually, that started during the time of Obama. But Israel keep occupying or keep making. I mean, keeping busy, keeping America busy in the Middle East. So they cannot go and fight with China or duel with China. So that's why Trump, Erdogan find a way to communicate with Trump to decrease their attention, their presence, or the Obama plan to divide Syria with the PKK, terrorists. I mean, they say they are terrorists, but they are working with them. This is an ally, American ally that we have. You don't need enemy when you have such an ally that works with the terrorists. They also supported or at least host the Gülenists today. That's also, I see it an extension. The America or the global hegemony has tools, sometimes from left, sometimes from right, and they use Gülenists as a maybe religious group. They use PKK, PYD as a secular and maybe leftist groups. So they have all these tools to dominate the country. But Turkish people reject both of them. Even the Kurdish people that supported the unification and the appreciating the democratic and economic progress. Erdogan found a way to communicate with Trump, and that also he's struggling sometimes with the establishment, sometimes he backfires. But Bolton, as a evangelist and totally pro-Israeli politician, had a problem with Erdogan when he was coming to discuss Syria. He went to Israel first. Bolton, that he published, his former security advisor, published a book. He Turkey's agenda. So he was, resisting these rapprochements, but there is some kind of dialogue between them. And as I said, Trump is more focused on the big ball, which is China now is rising and, maybe challenging the American position in the global position. So in that sense, both sides, China, Russia, or America, they need, even Europeans, they need Turkey, but they don't realize that. They have so much internal ambiguities and problems, so they don't realize how important Turkey is. If they side with China, if Turkey side with Russia, they change the whole outlook of the Middle East. So, but the Europeans don't realize that. They just go with some narrow interests of Greece and France, and they have, even in Africa, for example, doctor also knows better. In Africa, the West is losing to China, and France is just focused on their narrow interests. They don't want to create a kind of a developmental strategy, which is, all countries are suffering. And America is upset because China is more aggressive and has more plans, more, strategic approach to Africa. And the whole West is losing. So America doesn't want to lose Africa, which is a young country with a lot of resources. So even in the latest Libya struggle, that's why, for example, in NATO, America didn't go after France, even though they are like a big part in NATO, because they have bigger interest in Africa, in Libya, in Eastern Mediterranean. They don't want to be a tail to France. So the bigger picture forced also Trump to cooperate with Turkey more. And we have, as I said, a dynamic situation that's required. Also, Turkey's role is not avoidable.
Mr. Athar Javed, how are you seeing U.S. and Turkey relations?
Well, to be honest, as Dr. Ahmed very, I would say, clinically elaborated what's happened to Palestine conflict and why it's difficult for U.S. to, at the moment, to revive its previous policies. Well, let me add two maybe expressions which may be dichotomic in terminologies. Well, in my personal view, further expansion is not good for Israel itself. It's not that the Israeli, with the support of US or Britain or other countries, cannot do it. They are doing it. But the issue would come when, in a very close proximity, the conflict will further expand. The risk to security and so close proximity, you cannot use really big missiles. So how do you manage if there are more intifadas in terms of, especially when you have a very bad economy, as I said? And the second important thing is, what will you do with Iran, for example, in this? How would Iran react to all of that? Turkey has taken a diplomatic stance, which Turkey considers legit on the basis of the rights of the Palestinian people. This has been stances of OIC and Arab League, and including Pakistan. So I think it is my assessment that Turkey must continue to improve relation with the US in order to have a leverage over their policies. At the moment, maybe it appears very difficult. And then also in a matter of Gulen, for example, I observed all of that since July and all that when it happened. I observed this very closely, and I participated in many, sort of discussions, in which we also suggested and advised. Actually, it is very important to keep the bigger countries, despite of differences, closer to you, because what happens is Europeans interplay between US and EU in order to exclude the Turkish role in the Middle East. So it is important that the reverse diplomatic policy should be used in order to make sure that the more academic and other exchanges with the US should continue in order to basically check on the opinion. That check is not control. That check is exchange of opinions to neutralize the opponent, to explain to them that this policy of individually respective individuals, be it Gulen or other people, they will harm the national interests of the US. So is the case with Israel. Israel and Turkey has a diplomatic relation with Egypt and other countries, Jordan. If Israel keep on insisting or emphasizing on a dominant policy in the Middle East, it will hurt its regional interests and global interests. Therefore, it is also important that Israel should remain, they should remain in dialogue and try to, if they can, because at the moment it's very aggressive posturing everywhere. Israel can do anything in the region, and the countries cannot stop them. If UN would try, there is a problem on that. UNSC through US vetoed many times, and they can do it again. My opinion is that Turkey should strive to engage Arab nations at par, and also to US, in order to enhance the leverage and the capacity. Because if I compare now Europe and US, both are in difficult situations respectively because of their economies, because of their diplomatic stances. The only countries which are moving forward with some sort of neutral stances, Turkey, China, all they want is, and to some extent, Russia, I would say, to some extent, because Russians have a major stakes with the United States, which we all understand, on the different fundings, on the arms cut treaty and other stability funds they require sometime. So I think it is our responsibility as a political science student that we suggest policies which are less confrontational on principles, but to outclass your opponents by better diplomacy, because they want to engage Turkey negatively. I am totally against it. I think Turkey's stability, is economic well-being, is far more important than anything. The leadership of President Erdogan and all other his cabinet members, everybody's responsibility to realize and to assess that we should not entrap with this negative engagement. We have to make sure that our deployments are legit and our interventions are in a way in which we do not let them engage us negatively, because the mercenaries, the private armies, they do the job for other terrorist groups, non-state actors, and the states. We have seen in Syria, we have seen in the example that the large majority of Kurdish people, they're not against Turkey's. If there are problems, they can resolve through dialogue. It's an internal issue anyway. It's like, the Kashmir issue, for example, if you see, is based on UN resolution. But time and again, we have seen that Western powers and others, they do not say anything to India because it's a big trade market. Come on, a big trade market just in exchange of 8 million people. Same goes with the other issues in our regions, in Middle East especially. So my suggestion would be to improve relations with the US and keep Israel engaged positively and make sure that if they try to engage you negatively, find a way out of it and engage them again, re-engage them. Because this is a game is being played by the powerful Muslim countries, that they want to weaken them inside, impose a controlled social chaos, propaganda machinery, simple, small internal issues, and they will blown out of proportion in order to build bad images in the next generation of Turkish and other Muslim generations, or general generations for that matter.
Dr. Ahmet, please give your assessment on Pak-Turk strategic relationship. What needs to be done to strengthen it? Kindly indicate areas of collaboration. Give us a whole picture.
Yes, we have a lot at stake between Turkey and Pakistan. But let me just add to Dr. Javed's point that Turkey is not playing victimized. Turkey is aware of these political games. Of course, the West doesn't want a strong Turkey as much as they don't want strong Pakistan, or even like Egypt and other Muslim countries. They want to keep them at bay and under control. But our cooperation is very much needed. We have, huge feelings special feelings for each other for like 500 years, even more, with the Pakistan and during the Ottoman time, and also during the war with the invasion, Western invasions. Turkey was not colonized thanks to the financial aid and, from Pakistani brothers and sisters. If you are in a war and you cannot find bullet or buy bullet, you'll be imprisoned. So that was so much survival issue, so much critical with these financial aid, and to heal your also wounds even with today. I think there is a big opportunity. This special feeling, this good relations gives us a big boost, big ground to build on it. And they are similar also. Pakistan is a little bit, of course, bigger in size and more densely populated. Turkey has advantage in the east-west direction, and they complete each other. So this is very much important. Of course, Pakistan can use even like China trying to use Turkey as a gateway to the West. And one point also, the West, for example, doesn't understand how much Turkey is playing a stabilizing role with keeping like Syrian refugees, even Afghan refugees and Iranians. So if Turkey like collapses, all of these, they are already scared, and this rise of radical right is rising in the West now. Then you have a major chaos, But they don't appreciate it as much. But if you come back to Pakistan-Turkey relations, there is big potential also to share the experiences. We go similar routes with the military regime, then go to democratic transition. we experience all of these military coups. I'm a political sociologist myself, so we can explore these transitions to strengthen the civilian authorities, democratic decision making, and also the joint interest we had. We had, they are big part in the OIC, Islamic cooperation. They are also very critical in their region, Pakistan, in South Asia, plus Asia and Central Asia. And we have Kashmir issue. Turkey is supporting. I mean, not only the government, the public is very much, completely with the Kashmiri people, and we feel strongly about that. We also have, balanced relations. Of course, maybe Pakistan is now leaning towards more China, but I think you are also trying to balance between the two sides. I think it is better because when you lean to one side, you become the target of the other. So it is better to stay in the middle. And one thing also, as the latest, AK Party and Erdogan development projects, I think we can share some of the generally, like as I also study the Arab world and the third world, they expect a lot from the state, and which is already failing. Yeah, in most cases, you expect something. I mean, they are part of the problem. I mean, the regimes and the administration. You expect them to solve all the problems. They can solve some problem, but they can create some problem, even more problems. So we have to balance. So, for example, when I explained the secret of Turkish experience, I said this is like more strengthening society, civil society, and economic field. When there is, I mean, I am not a liberal. I mean, I see a balance. The state should be like supervising and sometimes encouraging. But in a way, we need to trust the people also. We need to allow them to contribute. So, like in education, for example, AK Party, they allowed private schools for hire or for profit. So state cannot do everything. In economy, they facilitated the establishment of trade mechanism, machinery. So if you facilitate people's lives, our people are young and energetic, both Turkey and Pakistani people, similar. So they can invest or they can enterprise, they can take some risk, they can be very active, which is needed for a young economy. So these experience in economy, in health, for example, with coronavirus, Turkey did a good job, and with economy, with education. I mean, I'm not saying which is perfect, but I think there is a big improvement, and there is some experiences that we can share. I think there are maybe other. I'm not too much into the Pakistani affairs, but there are some maybe good experience that Turkey also can benefit. So we share these positive experiences and help out each other. We don't expect like American liberal value who has the global power, and even they are making billions of dollars from digital sector with Google and all these Facebook, billion-dollar companies. We cannot do this. So we have to find small, micro, and or mid-level, meso-level projects that we can implement. And also our culture is different, and we have to fine-tune, reframe our projects. I think we have. I see we have capitalism, but we have a humane capitalism in Turkey that pay attention to the to the poor, to the needy, to kind of solidarity spirit is there still. So we can mix all these, positive sides from the West, East, and from our past. I think we have a good position to cooperate with Pakistan. I know there are good relations with all areas, but one thing is missing, maybe the academic cooperation, and we have so much ground for this, and I think we are lacking that. We have to do more conferences, more understanding, joint history. We have Sophia, for example, comes from the Indian subcontinent, and we share a common cultural background also. And we have Patawai Hindiya, for example, the masterpiece of the Hanafi school. So we have many things that we can share, and we also feeling is there. I think the irada and the willpower is there, and it's improving, but we can do more. I think that's all I can say.
Mr. Athar Javed, last word. Would you like to add something to what Dr. Ahmed just said?
No, I think I do agree with Dr. Ahmed on all these points. That, especially he mentioned that they of course, Turkey is aware of all those those conspiracies and all those efforts to keep region negatively developed. So I think on this point I totally agree with Dr. Ahmed. On the point about Pakistan-Turkey relation, I think on the academic cooperation, there is a serious need. Basically, I agree with it. It's a very serious need on the especially implementation, because there is one thing that one can go to a conference or this, but there are important issues on which we can develop joint projects, actually, basically a long-term project, 1, 2 year, 3 year project with a good output out of that, policy output or implementation in terms of the ground implementation, policy implementations. So I think there is a need to it. And of course, Pakistan needs more innovation and in technology. And I can see the Turkish-Pakistani defense area also, they cooperate a lot. Also, the politicians, they meet a lot. And the political stability is also there. And Pakistan, of course, has been through all those, and it's democratically elected governments for the past almost many years now. So I think the issue here is that the environment, Pakistani environment, is different than the Turkish environment. You mentioned very rightfully. Turkish environment is different. Social, political, civil environment is different than Pakistani environment. The politicians, the others, are quite different than the Turkish politicians. They're quite different. They are well, I'm not saying the Pakistani politicians are somehow less to anyone, but I think there is a need to exchange views, to understand how to create a stable social democracy, or how to create social governance, for example, how to avert all those issues relating to governance, because there is a need to learn from each other's experience. And I think it's a very valid point Dr. Ahmed has made.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmet Uysal, for being on Security Watch. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Athar Javed, for being on Security Watch. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much, Zain.
This was Dr. Ahmet Uysal. He is the Director of Middle Eastern Studies Center in Ankara, and he's also the Professor of Political Sociology in University of Istanbul. And also our second guest, as always, Mr. Athar Javed, the DG Pakistan House, and also a senior geopolitical analyst. Our both guests were discussing Turkey's role in the region and also Turkey's relationship with the United States and also Pakistan. Until the next episode of Security Watch, this is Zain Khan. Keep on watching Security Watch. Take care and goodbye.